I can remember vividly when my own education went from just getting information to becoming a thirst for learning. And that is when I started to have questions about various things. I remember one very specific experience in which I was out with a friend, a colleague of mine now, at the time a mentor, and we were going golfing. And I had mentioned how a dear friend of mine had been killed in an avalanche while snowmobiling. And I just made some comment about what I believed at the time of God having taken his life. And my colleague, dear friend, just posed the hard question of, do you really think God caused that avalanche to take his life? And it just made me think. Yeah, I was not at that place in my thinking, and I'd never been challenged to think about the nature of God and his role in our challenges in mortality. And just that simple question led me on a pursuit to really better understand the nature of God and then the nature of challenges and trials. And so one of the things that I like to do is challenge current ways of thinking, because it's often based on cultural myth or lack of information, or just thinking that, well, I was raised this way, therefore it must be true. Pushing them to think about the material in ways that they haven't in the past. And I believe that engages them in the learning process in ways that will lead to learning.
He's not afraid of talking about subjects that are hard to address, that students honestly do face, but sometimes don't think that they are facing it.
He also tries to break our kind of cultural beliefs that aren't doctrine, but we assume they're doctrine. And that's one of the biggest things I love, is he teaches the doctrine.
There's a child development theory that says true learning takes place when a child's existing thoughts are challenged. They're placed in a state of disequilibrium. They experience cognitive conflict. And none of us like being in that place of discomfort, where there's confusion about what I'm thinking but versus what I'm experiencing. And that leads to growth, because then the student is the one who wants to resolve that. They want to do away with that discomfort, that cognitive conflict. And so then they're engaged in the learning process.
He would say a situation where you would have your opinion, but he would really get you to think about the other sides of it and to not just rely on, oh, well, I think I'm right, and so this is what I think. But he would question you and get you to look at both sides of the argument.
He would argue against, it's kind of like play devil's advocate, and he would kind of like argue against it, and we're just like, oh, well, but like no one could really argue, because like everything that we said, he would counter, well, where's your evidence? Where's your research? How do you know? And so that's when we're like, oh, well, do we really know? And so then that's when he would step in and show us the evidence and the research and say, no, it is true, family is important, and this is why.
At first I was kind of taken aback, because he was really forward and blunt.
In the beginning, it really frustrated me. I wanted to just think, no, you know this. I don't know, I'd kind of fight back with him in my mind.
I remember his classes in particular. I'd leave them being like, whoa, that was really heavy.
One of the things that I often see teachers do is they, as it were, walk the student off the path, but then they leave them out in the trees. They leave them in the dark forest and expect them to find their way back. I definitely want to give them a different view by walking them off the path of how they typically think. I want them to see the world from different perspectives. But I don't think I've done my job as a teacher if I leave them out there to fully find their way back on their own. And so by challenging them with new information, equipping them with the tools to find answers for themselves, not just leads them back to where they were, but further along on their path of learning.
I really learned to enjoy them when he would throw back your answer in your face, not in a rude way, but make you challenge what you think and what you believe. He would start to show the evidence behind, what we do believe. I was able to further, dig the roots in my beliefs and figure out why I felt that.
How well do we really believe what we believe? Like, do we really know what we believe? Or is it just kind of like we're just going along with what we've grown up with? So even if there is slight doubting, like, do I really know what I know? He brings up all of this evidence that it is true, like what we are teaching, it is true, and so there is really no doubt. Like, it only helps me.
It was during these times that I really felt myself grow, and I evaluated what my beliefs were and why I believed them. The knowledge that I'm gaining from that is lifelong, and I can apply it throughout the rest of my life in teaching my own future kids and raising my own family, and even challenging them in the same ways to figure out what they believe and why.
That powerful process of having a question, being given skills to learn how to seek answers, find information, is just powerful. And so I believe learning is facilitated by posing challenging questions that will help students really engage with the subject and to think about their own assumptions that they bring to the classroom, to the material, or to topics that they are going to have to grapple with over the course of their lives. 1 year, 2 years from now, the amount of specific knowledge about content that is remembered by students may not be as high as we would like. So one of the most important things that we can do in the classroom is teach them to become lifelong learners. And that's why the process that I take in the classroom of pushing with questions that requires them to search for and want answers and learn how to find that information has to be a goal of our teaching at BYU.